Winnie. I'm glad to be the last one before you all head out to lunch. And here I'm presenting my thesis project, GIM, Generative AI for Empathy Building. First of all, let's start with a scenario of user interviews. I'm pretty sure that this is very familiar for most of us, that in a short amount of time that you're talking with an interviewee, trying to figure out what their preferences, what's in their head, know like what their behavior, so that you can focus on their pain point and then design product for them. However, has anyone talked about how hard it is? In a short amount of time, you are using your soft skills to identify many qualitative data and then analyze it to generate useful feedback. These are some of the feedback I got from interviewing 8 professionals about what you need to do in a session like this. You need to communicate, asking the right question for your user. You need to understand what they're saying, and then don't forget to confirm what you mean by that. And then you need to read emotional cues when they feel unnatural or confused, know what's the right procedure to do, and then use your own judgment to provide unbiased insights for you to get the most information out of it. Why is it so hard and why is it a problem? The center of user interviews is empathy, and to understand empathy, we can have it 2 perspectives. The first one is very straightforward, emotional, how you can feel similar feelings with other people. And the other one is a little bit more complicated about cognitive. Besides just how they're feeling, can you make sense out of their creative thinking to see how are you making sense of the world, and then to make sense out of what kind of information they're thinking to understand your user better. The thing about empathy is there is no rubric or measurement in this when empathy takes place, and it's very abstract for you to evaluate to know which direction you're heading towards is the right one. And another problem that I identify in user interview is the workflow. Here is a timeline that I listed out many components that you need to prepare for an interview. First of all, you need to do some background research to prepare a set of interview questions. Many of this can be achieved by Googling or going on field trips. And then the most important part, interview actually takes very short amount of time compared to the rest of them. Let's say 15 to 20 minutes and you're hopping on a call or over Zoom with someone. And then afterwards, you're spending much more time to organize the material, to analyze, synthesize, and then hopefully you can arrive at making insights for your design decisions. And besides the amount of time, we can also have a look at how much workload we're talking about. Let's go back to the very specific component interview itself. This is the time that you can only rely on yourself. Before and after that, you have resources. For example, you can go on Google, you can go on ChatGPT to help you prepare. Afterwards, you can talk to your peers, get mentors to help you synthesize and then get the decision. But an interview, you have to be on your own. You have to trust yourself to judge. And go back to the scenario, we all understand how many problems can it be. So, as a junior user researcher, I asked, how can we deepen empathy to optimize the workflow and ensure the quality of qualitative user research? To do that, let's first introduce some technology that can be useful, emotional expressions. So there is AI technology that can help detect, categorize, and also analyze the emotion, and then give you a specific feedback of a combination of emotion that you have at this moment. And just to specify, the emotion we're talking about here is not the kind of thinking inside your head because we're not trying to read your mind, but it's a kind of expression. For example, right now I'm singing loudly or trying to be cheerful, but sometimes I can also sound very boring, and this is different emotions we can have in our expression. This technology is still in experimental mode, but there are some companies that are already putting in application. For example, Affectica is using a recognition system to our social platforms to collect different sentiment data for reviews, for example, an advertisement or movie. And another company, User Testing, also launched about 2 months ago, a sentiment analysis to identify positive and negative emotions for you to know in a user testing session. It's worth noticing that the reason they're only categorizing in both positive and negative, such a simplistic way, is because this technology is still developing, but that doesn't mean that we cannot get a taste of what a future version it could be. And this is what my project is about. So, before we get into further, let's do an experiment. I extracted 2 clips from YouTube about 2 real user interviews, and I choose 2 questions to actually have an experiment. I will play them first and second, and please hear it, pay attention, and then tell me based on your own judgment, like nobody tell you what the rubric is, which one you think is better or who did a better job. Got it? Okay, I'm gonna start playing.
Okay, so can you walk me through a little bit more your experience of like finding your housing and how you picked it? Like what qualities did you look for and kind of that whole process?
That's the first one. Let's start the second
What I want to ask you is, can you walk me through your experience and your process of finding talent to hire just after practice?
Okay, I hope I don't need to play it again. Who thinks the first person did a better job? I think that's the most. Who thinks the second person did a better job? Oh, okay, I would say like 80% vs 20%. I did a similar test with some of my peers yesterday, and we actually got similar feedback. I got 20 responses, but in different mode. The right side is I play the same audio clips and then ask who's better, who is worse. And I got most of the positive feedback on the first one. I got like, it sounds personal, it sounds natural, straightforward, and confident and gentle. For people who like the second one, they think it's more clear, it shows like someone is active learning. However, I did another testing, not audio, but the text. So without an emotion, you're just reading the content of the logic. And for this text, I specifically take out fitting words, for example, like, which doesn't really make any logical sense. So I took it out and then replaced it as a comma, as a pause. And then surprisingly, I got completely different feedback. More people, by reading it, think the second person is more clear, has like more straightforward sentencing. And the other person is facing like too many questions in one sentence. This is like how we can review a content just by the different emotional cues and then combine with the logic flow to actually understand the quality of it. And I run this two audio through an API called Hume.com, Hume AI, that they analyze, first of all, the language, the emotion conveyed in chosen word, and also the speech prosody in what kind of emotion that we can have from the tone, from the rhythm, and many things. The first one up there is the first clip. That is the girl. We can analyze like there's like actually more interest showing. That's why even if when you read about the sentence, it seems a little bit wordy, but because her tone has shown much more interest, most of the people feel like, oh, I think that's like a more personal question for me. And the second one is the guy who shows like more concentration, more calmness, more determination, that even though it shows like a good logic, when you hear a researcher ask you a question like this, you'll be like, I'm not so sure what I can do. And following this emotion analysis logic, I continue analyze the full interviews of these two clips, and just by a little bit like review, the guy is actually a professional. He uploaded this clip showing people how you can do a better job. And if you listen to the full clip, he did get a more like richer information in this whole interview. And I also did the similar analysis that first of all, I identified the prominent emotions that has the maximum intensity score. And then I also combined the conversation logic, so I'm not just like taking the emotion out of the context, and did lots of comparative analysis to see like how I can actually evaluate the quality of both emotion and logic. And that was like very specific part that I put out of the whole interview. These are the data showing the interview itself. And by the outer cycle is the whole emotion categories. By the guy's interview, you can see like a richer range of emotions, both coming from him and also his user. So the right question he asked actually get richer responses and detailed storytelling. And the inner circle is the girl who is a student at University of Florida. She turns to like asking simple questions and then get a little bit limited feedback. So I'm imagining a system in the future, let's say 5 to 10 years, 3 to 5 years. That's a little bit too much. Because we're already seeing lots of like emotional data that ChatGPT also start to analyze the sentiment in your language. Going for a more personal AI system seems to be the trend, and I imagine in the future such a system can exist that identify, capture the information, both logic and emotion, put into Hume API and Otter API. That is the two AI tools that I use for this project. Analyze the score, analyze the transcript, and then fit into a higher AI, hopefully in the future, to give you suggestion how to practice, to give you suggestion how to revise your question, and then to help you get different feedback. I'm a little bit behind time, so I'll go to, let's see, this is a Figma simulation of how capture can be implemented. In a scenario that you place the record button, the system automatically take meeting minute during the interview, make it easy for you to rewatch, and also you don't need to organize your notes during this process. At the same time, they also capture the emotion data, so they capture your voice first, you capture the language and the prosody for later analysis. And in the second step, let's say you already have the interview, and then now you want to reflect on it to see how you did. Let's say this is the real interview, and the content is from the male person's real data, and I run it through both of the API that I just mentioned, and then show some of the examples how different emotion can be detected, and then notify the top emotion that you can flip the card to see the raw data from the AI, and then go back to see what kind of improvement you can get. So all of this system is, you can also go to the content and then show you the corresponding suggestion. Basically, it help you as a training or supportive system for you to know how you can better improve your own ability. But let's not forget, such skills do not just get improved in one session. We need to learn. Our researchers will have added to our reflection section or added to our practice section to have a dashboard for our own personal learning. So later on, we can go back to it and then keep practice. Therefore, that's the solution. Let's go back to the workflow. Hopefully, different AI tools can help you lower down the workload. And with such a tool like Jin, that is emotional aware intelligence system, we're focusing on the most important part that has the most qualitative data. And thank you for listening. I welcome